Hey, what is going on? My name is Milad, and today we are going to talk about iPhone 14 lineup. So quite recently, Apple announced few of their newest product, which includes Apple Watch, which I will be discussing in a separate video. As well as that, there was AirPods and of course iPhone 14 and 14 Pro lineup there. Now, I don't actually have the unit in hand yet, so I don't think anybody else actually has that because they're in the middle of production. But I have done a pre-order, so you should be with me within few weeks time. So make sure you subscribe because you don't want to miss out on that video there. Right. First thing first, say goodbye to Mini and say hi to Plus. So for the past few years, for iPhone 12 and 13, what they've been doing, they introduced this thing that was iPhone Mini. Now with iPhone Mini, it's the same chip and everything, but it's just smaller and more compact. And because of that, you know, you get yes, you definitely did get a lower battery life, but then the phone itself was 20-25% cheaper than the normal one, which was a great value for such a phone. But they took that away. So it's no longer there. But instead, they replaced it with this thing called iPhone 14 Plus. So it's not Pro. It's still iPhone 14. They're basic ones, but they added this Plus to it. Now, what this is like same as iPhone 14, iPhone like Pro or Pro Max. With Pro, which was 6.1 inch display, with Pro Max is like 6.7 inch display. It's exactly the same thing. With iPhone 14, you get 6.1 smaller screen, and Plus is like that bigger size phone there for you. Now then, when I first heard about iPhone 14, I was actually quite shocked because they're using the same exact chip as last year, which was Bionic 15. They're using the same exact design, the same exact notch, but like they're charging more for it. Like even the battery life itself it's quite similar to last year. So for example, with iPhone 13, Apple claimed that it will give us 19 hours. This year, obviously with 14 is 20 hours. Now with iPhone 14 Plus, you get up to 26 hours worth of battery life, which is absolutely great. Now then, there are a few differences here and there. So for example, the first difference is the US model. So if you're in the United States, then basically the phone does no longer have those SIM card trays. So because they will be using the electronic SIM or eSIM as you may know it. Now think about it this way, this is great because for so long, basically forever, we've been manually putting one of those SIM cards in. Now the size of the SIM card has shrunk down to the micro, to the nano, but we actually still had to put that in, and there was a physical sort of like SIM card tray. But we no longer need that because they will be using the electronic SIM. But as mentioned, this is only for US only. Now, the other cool feature that Apple has added this year is their satellite sort of connectivity. So basically, if you think about it this way, you are in the middle of a desert or top of a mountain or something like that, and the connection in there is quite weak. So then what you can do, you can direct your phone towards a satellite, the closest satellite, and send your message across. And it's only working for a short message, but I mean it's still there, which is great. Now how it allows you to do that is basically using Apple kind of created this UI for their users that basically direct you and tells you basically where to hold your phone, which direction if you like. So yeah, that's something cool there, but unfortunately that is only for US and Canada at the moment, and they're available for 2 years for free. I don't know what that means afterwards, so maybe they're charging or something like that, but there's no detail. In terms of a screen, it's the same exact size and resolution as before, but the only difference is in the brightness. Now it goes to 1200 nits max for HDR content. Now there are a few differences in terms of the camera. Firstly, it has a bigger aperture for better photos. There is a sensor stabilization for their main 12 megapixel camera. But the real difference is in this thing they call photonic engine. Now I don't know why they call it that. I guess it's because photon is like a light particle. But anyway, yeah, photonic engine, what it is essentially helps out with a low light like environment. So in the simplest word, it kind of brighten the place, so it's ideal for nighttime photos. There is also a 12 megapixel front camera which has an autofocus, which is absolutely great, because if you think about it, for so long lots of phone companies kind of been investing in their rear cameras, so they spend millions if not billions on their rear cameras to make them better. But in like today's, people kind of tend to go loads with their like selfies for different platforms such as Instagram, you know, Facebook, Snapchat, or even the video conferencing that they do. They're really using their front camera more than they use their rear one, if you want to be realistic. And it's great that Apple finally realized that, and then they're kind of investing more in their front camera by adding that autofocus in there as well. Now, the best thing that I like about their camera feature is this new thing they called action mode. Now, action mode is kind of like helps out with the super shaky videos. Now, I'm definitely going to test that, and I would love it if what they said is correct. Like, we had that in different phones before, like Android phones, but once you use it, like it kind of bring the quality of the video like really low, to the point that you just never ever use it again. But what they've showed in their advertisement was something else. I mean, if what they showed is actually true, then it's a fantastic feature that they have added into their new line of phones. Now, the other thing is a crash detector. Now, crash detector, so let's say if you're in an accident or something like that, it will automatically detect the crash using the gyroscope and accelerometer that it has. And basically, it called the emergency line. Hopefully, none of us will ever have to use this, but it's, in my opinion, I think this is a great thing that they have added into their phones, which is thumbs up for Apple there. Now then, the real stuff starts from here. So iPhone 14 Pro and Pro Max was the two other phones that kind of Apple announced. In terms of the difference between them two, there isn't a whole lot of difference other than the size of the screen. And obviously iPhone 14 Pro Max, it has a larger battery inside it, so better battery life there as well. But they both have a great battery life. I think iPhone 14 Pro is 23 hours and 14 Pro Max is 29 hours, if my mind serves me correctly. But yeah, other than that, there isn't a whole lot of difference between them. They're using a Bionic 16 chip, which is the newest and the fastest chip that Apple has ever created for their mobile phones. And they actually claim it is 40% faster than the competition, which is a brilliant number there. Now, finally, Apple has always on display. Like, for so long, we've been waiting for that, but they finally include that in their phone. Now, before we go any further with that, let's just pause there. Look, we know Apple. Apple knows Apple. Apple does things slower but better. So like always on display, it's not a new thing that came around. Like it's been around for years now. Like I think I've used it in Galaxy S8 if I'm not mistaken, and it had that. But what Apple has done kind of gives it this sort of stylish looking, which I personally love, and it doesn't use the battery life at all. But what is always on display? So basically think about it this way. An average person turn their phone on to check the time or the date or any important information basically every sort of 10-15 minutes. At least I do. But what always on display kind of does is your display is always on. It never goes off, so you don't have to press that physical button to turn your phone on to just check those details. It's always on. But Apple does it in a way that there is literally no battery drain at all. So it doesn't affect your battery life at all whatsoever. But how do they do that? Well, if you think about it, the phone's been kind of using this technique that called sort of reducing the frame, if you like. So if you think about it, if you go on a page or to read an article or something like that, because there isn't a whole lot of movement there or a lot of motion, what they do, let's say they reduce the frames from 60 frames per second to 15 or to 20 frames per second, and this way it will save them in battery life. But what Apple basically does the exact same thing by reducing it to 1 frame per second. So it kind of darkens the background and kind of focus your attention on those important information that's on the screen, which is the time or the date or, you know, some of those cool stuff. But because it's only 1 frame per second, it doesn't really affect your battery life at all. So that is an absolute fantastic feature that Apple has finally added to their phones. Shame it's only for iPhone 14 Pro and Pro Max, but it's a positive movement that they have done. So thumbs up to Apple for doing that. Now the camera system, the whole camera system has kind of been changed. So you get a bigger camera, and there are a whole lot of differences in terms of their camera system. But the main one that I want to talk about in this video is that the Apple has finally gone out of their 12 megapixel cameras to 48 megapixel cameras. So you're still shooting with 12 megapixel, but those areas that requires kind of more detail, then you can kind of use the benefits of having a 48 megapixel. But if you're shooting in 48 megapixel, you need to shoot in Pro RAW. Now also, you see how when it comes to zooming, you usually zoom from 1x to 3x, kind of like there is this jump between them, but now there is a 2x zoom in their camera. So hopefully that would be enough to zoom in and without it sort of using quality, if you like. But yeah, those are the two main ones that I just wanted to discuss. Now in terms of the screen, I think the screen brightness goes to 2000 nits max outdoors, so which is an absolutely fabulous brightness for the phone. So again, another great thing that they have added. And now the real thing that kind of shocked me is dynamic island. Now yes, yeah, dynamic island. It's stupid. I don't know why they call it this. Don't get me wrong, the actual feature is great, which I will get into, but it's just Apple. They just name everything. Photonic engine, dynamic island. It's just, yeah, it's getting too much. They're naming every single thing that they kind of make. Now, what is dynamic island? You see those little cutouts on a selfie camera that we had? Well, basically they created this UI around that, and which is actually quite cool. I love it, and that kind of shows you important sort of information, such as the time a person was calling you and things like that. But what's cool is that for so long, companies, even same with Apple as well, companies kind of been trying to hide that, trying to get rid of that by making it smaller and smaller and smaller. But I love the fact that Apple kind of came up with this idea. Okay, let's use that into our advantage and build something around it that is firstly quite useful, secondly take that ugliness away from it. I just absolutely love that, and in my opinion I think this is by far the best and the coolest sort of new feature that they have added into their phones. Again, shame it's only available with iPhone 14 Pro and Pro Max, but they have added it, which is absolutely brilliant. So a credit goes to Apple. Okay guys, so that kind of brings us to the end of today's video. Please like and subscribe, and yeah, see you guys in a future video. Take care, bye bye.